Alright, so we all agree that Spider-Man sucks. But in Spider-Man, there was one weird little card that I found to be really inspiring. And that is Lady Octopus, Inspired Inventor. This is a 1-mana blue 0/2 that says whenever we draw our first or second card each turn, she gets an ingenuity counter. And then we can tap her to cast an artifact spell from our hand with mana value less than or equal to the number of ingenuity counters on her without paying its mana cost. This means we can just cheat big artifacts into play really easily. And all we have to do to achieve that is draw cards. Now, there are a couple of things that I found to be really interesting about Lady Octopus. First of all, she only costs 1 mana. That's kind of crazy. 1 mana as a commander is so cheap. A lot of commander decks actually don't have a good turn 1 play. Green has mana dorks, but setting that aside, what are you doing on turn 1? Not really all that much. Well, with Lady Octopus, you're casting Lady Octopus. You're immediately starting your game plan, and that is pretty nice. The second thing I find really interesting about her is her play pattern. She wants us to draw cards and then allows us to mana cheat. Drawing cards is something we want to do anyways, and she rewards us for doing that. And then she lets us just put stuff into play for free. We can put huge artifacts into play for free. Now, of course, this all comes with restrictions. We can only get 2 counters per turn, but it doesn't say our turn, which means if we draw cards on our opponent's turns with something like a Brainstorm, for example, we can also get counters. And having played this card a bunch now, I can tell you that getting Lady Octopus up to 7, 8, basically infinite counters, because past a certain point you can just cast everything in your deck, is trivially easy. It is not difficult whatsoever. The next thing then is, what do we put into play with her, right? We get to cheat things into play. That can be big artifact creatures, think like a Blightsteel Colossus. It could be stacks like God Pharaoh's statue or something else. I'm sure you have your own ideas on what you could do with this. Now, personally, I actually ran into a bit of a problem with that, because in about a month and a half, we've got our next Budget Commander tournament coming up on the 7th of December. If you want to come, it's in Gießen. Sign-ups will open in like 3 or 4 weeks, right? Check budgetcommander.de for the information. But with that tournament coming up, people are starting to deck build. Actually, just 2 days ago, I had my first playtest session with some people, which is always like as we go into the tournaments, we play on Tabletop Sim or in person, wherever, and we just kind of practice our decks and refine them and build them and so on. And I was thinking that Lady Octopus might be able to be played in Budget Commander, so I wanted to build a deck for her. However, that means I am restricted by budget. I cannot play super expensive artifacts because a lot of them just are literally expensive in terms of money. So I needed to find a different way to win, and I think there are 2 ways we can do this with Lady Octopus. Both involve just vomiting a ton of artifacts into play. The first one is to go for a beatdown route. There are cards like Cyberdrive Awakener and Rise and Shine that let us just animate all of our artifacts and then smack somebody with them. And that's honestly a pretty good way of going about it. If we just vomit a ton of artifacts into play and then we awaken them and we just kill people in one go, we can be sort of a combo deck, but also we are just able to play this like solid foundational game plan of putting things on the board, which is always a good strategy. However, this strategy gives our opponents a lot of time, during which they can find their own combo or just lock us out in some capacity with some stacks pieces, or just kill us. So the other thing we could do then is we could go infinite ourselves, and we could try to turn Lady Octopus into a combo piece. And this took me a little while to figure out, because I wasn't really sure what the best way of doing that is. Just looking at the card, it seemed obvious to me that, well, there gotta be something here, but what is it? Like, how do we actually go infinite with this? Let me introduce you to Mirren Spy. Mirren Spy is a 3-mana 1/3 with flying that says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may untap target creature. So if you have Lady Octopus in play and Mirren Spy, and then we tap Lady Octopus to cast an artifact spell, and that's important, she doesn't just put them into play, she actually casts them. Then we can use the Mirren Spy to untap Lady Octopus and we can go again. So if we have a bunch of counters on Lady Octopus, which again is pretty easy to do, we just use some cantrips and some eggs to accomplish that, we can go sort of infinite with Mirror and Spy in the way that as long as we have cards in hand, as long as we have artifacts in hand to cast, we can continuously, endlessly do that. But of course, that runs into the problem of, well, what if I'm just out of cards? Like, how do we make sure we always have cards in hand? Now, luckily, there are synergy pieces here that can help us. Like, for example, Veldarken Archmage, which draws us a card whenever we cast an artifact spell. Or Unctus, Grand Metatect, which makes us loot whenever one of our blue creatures becomes tapped. Or Riddlesmith, that draws us a card and then has us discard one whenever we cast an artifact spell. But we're still missing one piece. We need artifacts to cast, so what are we casting? Well, pretty much any artifact that says when this enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's it. We play all of this trash. And when I say all of this trash, I mean we have Sleeper Dart in here, Alchemist's Smile, Guild Globe, my favorite, Marina Vendrell's Grimoire, Golden Egg, Ufrost's Scan Ship. All of this trash that just, as it enters, it draws us a card. We can use these in the early game to get counters on Lady Octopus, and then once we start storming off, which is essentially what this is basically a storm deck. But once we start storming off, then these will continuously replenish our hand as we go through our deck. So how do we win then? Well, Laboratory Maniac. We can dig through our entire deck in a single turn. We're not really going infinite at any point, but rather we're just casting as many spells as we have. It's just that the deck is built in such a way that we can cast our entire deck. And then we end it with a Laboratory Maniac, which just wins us the game and we draw a card with no cards in our deck. There's one major issue with the strategy, and that is lands. If we draw too many lands, then we cannot continue. Which means this deck plays as few lands as we possibly can. I have 25 in it right now, and I wonder if that's too much. First of all, we just don't need that many because we're trying to win by like turn 4. But also we play so much of the stinky card draw that we can kind of find our lands anyways. So something that I've seen pretty often is people try to justify their low land count by saying they have a lot of ramp. And that's not a good argument. If you're playing a lot of ramp, you should still be playing an adequate amount of lands, because otherwise you're just using ramp to replace lands, which is just a waste of cards. But there are two valid reasons to reduce your land count. The first one is that your deck just doesn't need that many because it tries to end the game early. You really don't need that many lands in your deck if your expectation is that the game is going to be over by turn 3. You're only ever going to get to play 3 anyways, so it really doesn't matter if you draw any additional ones. The other reason is that you just play a ton of card draw. If you have enough card draw, you can just kind of find your lands. Now, this isn't always guaranteed, but it is like a loose rule. If you play a lot of card draw, you can reduce your land count. And well, this particular deck tries to end the game by turn 4 and is oops all card draw. We only have card draw on the deck, so it's kind of fine if we don't play that many lands. This deck is also quite light on interaction. We play very specific, efficient counter spells and removal options, but not too many of them. Because ultimately, we are just trying to be faster than our opponents. Yes, if our opponents immediately hit us with removal, then we're kind of screwed. That can definitely set us back a lot. But it's also often not the best play for our opponents, since they're kind of using their removal on something that isn't actually threatening in the moment, and then they don't have it ready for when an actual threat appears. So I think we can usually expect to be able to cast Lady Octopus on turn 1 and then have her stick around for turns 2 and 3. By turn 4, we are hoping that either people don't see our plan coming or we have some sort of protection ready. There are some fancy options there. For example, Show Up is fantastic, gives Lady Octopus hexproof until end of turn and untaps her. We can use the untap, and of course hexproof until end of turn is great because we're just gonna churn through our entire deck in this single turn, so that protection lasts for the entirety of it. But overall, this deck is quite fragile. That's just the problem with it, and it's also the reason why I won't be bringing it to the budget tournament. I just think it's a bit too vulnerable if my opponents are scared of me. And I don't mean to like brag. I worry this sounds a little bit braggy, but at my tournaments, at our local budget tournaments here, people are wary of me. It doesn't really matter what I bring to the tournament. they will think that it's incredibly threatening. And so playing a fragile deck is just not something that I can afford to do. Somebody else might be able to do it, but I can't. Anyways, let's go through a couple more cards that I think are really cool in the list. Surprisingly, what is maybe the best card in the deck, apart from the main combo pieces, is Sting, the Glinting Dagger. This is a 2-mana artifact, equipment that gives the equipped creature +1/+1 and haste, and at the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature. And it has an equip cost of 2. It also has some flavor text about goblins, whatever. We can get Sting into play pretty easily, because our usual plan is to go Lady Octopus on 1, then on turn 2 we play some sort of 2-mana artifact that draws us a card. We have 2 counters on Lady Octopus, and then we tap her end step of our last opponent's turn, and then put Sting into play. Or something else, but Sting would be ideal. Then we go into our turn, we draw a card, which gives us another counter, we tap Lady Octopus to put something into play, and then we equip the Sting to Lady Octopus, and she immediately untaps on our combat, and then we can just tap her again, put something else into play. Then we go into our opponent's turn, and we can tap her again, because she gets untapped during combat. And we just kind of like do that on every opponent's turn. We get to cast a ton of spells for free, and that generates a huge amount of value, on top of, presumably, a lot of ingenuity counters, which means we can go into our top-end spells really quickly. As far as those are concerned, our strongest artifact to turbo out is probably Godpharaoh's statue, because it just limits how our opponents can interact with us and just limits their life in general. They can't really play properly anymore, so getting that out quickly does a huge amount of work. But another card that kicks ass is Panharmonicon, because then all of our stinky bulbas suddenly draw 2 cards, and that makes them way better. I also find it really interesting that this deck can use some rather strange, more casual artifacts really well, like Coveted Jewel or Marina Vendrell's Grimoire, both of which draws a ton of cards when they enter, and usually they have fairly significant downsides, but we don't care that much about them, because by the time we put these into play, we're hopefully already storming off enough to just end the game on the spot. It might be worth mentioning some of our other untappers. Chakram Retriever is fantastic, lets us go infinite really easily. Stinging Lionfish is a bit more specific because it only works once per turn and only on our opponent's turns, but it still allows us to build a huge amount of momentum in the early game because it's very cheap. And then the strangest line revolves around Valley Floodcaller, which Valley Floodcaller untaps our stuff whenever we cast a non-creature spell, but it only untaps birds, frogs, otters, and rats. Which of course Lady Octopus isn't. However, we can change Lady Octopus's typing with cards like Trickery Charm or Wings of Velisvel to then make it so that she is an otter. Isn't that sick? I think that's such a weird but cool line. You change the typing of Lady Octopus to work with Valley Floodcaller. And I mean, Valley Floodcaller is a good card to have in the deck anyways. We also play a bunch of the regular artifact synergy pieces that you might expect, like Joyra's Familiar, Foundry Inspector, and Ethereum Sculptor, which allow us to just kind of go infinite as well if we have those, and then we just kind of churn through our artifacts manually. A fun card here is Paradoxical Outcome, which is something that you don't really see much in Commander, but I think actually makes a lot of sense here. It's worth keeping in mind that we of course also play some mana rocks, so it's not just all eggs, it also has some mana in there, so we can kind of, once we go off, we can afford to cast some more expensive spells. My favorite there is Soul Talisman. Usually you have to suspend Soul Talisman, but with Lady Octopus we can just put that thing right into play. And that's pretty much the entire deck. It is actually kind of crazy what it can do, but as I already said, it is fragile. So if you're somebody that doesn't really enjoy fragile decks, then maybe this one isn't for you. But if you're somebody that wants to just vomit out infinite artifacts on turn 4, well, I cooked up something spicy for you. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and take this deck into a bracket 4 pot on Magic the Gathering Online now. I tried playing it in CEDH. Unfortunately, it matches up very, very poorly into CEDH because CEDH already punishes a lot of the things that we are trying to do. For example, Smothering Tithe just kind of makes it so we're feeding infinite mana to somebody. Rhystic Study stacks us out kind of effectively as well. And Vexing Bauble is just a goddamn nightmare, I tell ya. Budget Commander isn't really CEDH anyways. I think it is better to think of Budget Commander decks as like Bracket 4 decks. And that's what this is. We just got a new definition for Bracket 4. And within that definition, Bracket 4 means you can kind of end the game on turn 4. And this is what this deck can do. It can absolutely win on turns 4, turn 5, no problem. Anyways, if you want the deck list, it's on the Patreon, link in the description. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. We tried a bit of a different recording method for this one. Let me know what it feels like, if you liked it or not. And let's get into the game. We got a pretty good hand, honestly. I like it too because it can play even if our commander kind of gets killed. Going up against Halana and Alena. That one is actually pretty scary. They can put out a lot of pressure quite quickly. Our hand is really nice. Turn 1 commander, turn 2 soul talisman. Then we can probably drop like the Mind Stone and Ethereum Sculptor or something like that. It's nice to have a turn 1 play every game. I gotta say, it always feels good. It always feels like it's doing something productive. Ooh, Soul Warden. That can be annoying. Ring of Colonia. Oh, to buff up Halana and Alena. I can put bigger counters. That's reasonable. Oh, we drew another land. Let's go. Alright, we're gaming. Play land, tap her, cast just a casual 0 mana artifact. Don't worry about it. Just get that soul talisman in. Ethereum Sculptor. Gain a life. Why not? Play the Mind Stone. Play the Inverted Iceberg. Mill a card, draw a card. Be good. Valley Floodcaller. Valley Floodcaller is good. Now we could cast the Alchemist Smile as well. But there isn't really much of a benefit to doing that right now, other than using our mana. But we have enough mana. No, I would need to do that next turn. If I play another card right now, if I draw another card right now, I don't actually get a counter on her. She only gets 2 counters per turn. So yeah, that was my turn. Call of the Ring. We also have the Transplant Theorist already. So we're actually like only like 1 or 2, like 1 step away from going infinite. Infinite-ish. Sort of infinite. I'm expecting the Kieran to ramp here. Probably gonna try to, probably gonna sacrifice those 2 lands and then play Broad back, would be my guess. Okay, Mana Dork. Can the bird have a ring? Oh, Jaya Sage. Oh, well, that makes sense too. Okay, I guess we're not doing that. Cascading Cataracts. Yeah. We're working our way up to the MLD. Heliod. Alright, that doesn't really do very much. Okay, so we can transmute for our infinite. Can we go infinite? I mean, we kind of want to do it right now. Question is just if the mana adds up. We need 3 mana for Valley Floodcaller. We need 3 mana for Dizzy Spell. And then 1 mana for the remaining thing. So no, it does not add up. We can't do it. So I think what we try to do is we just flash in the Valley Floodcaller later. We basically just represent nothing. A cool thing about this deck, we are really good at playing at instant speed. We can dump most of our hand at instant speed right now. So we're chilling. We don't actually have to do anything. And you know, even if the MLD comes, we can just do everything in return. With the exception of the Dizzy Spell. We actually kind of need the mana to transmute, so maybe that won't be ideal. When I say we can do everything at instant speed, I meant like the Valley Floodcaller, Alchemist Vial, Transplant Theorist. We can get all of those cards in at instant speed. We can't get in the Dizzy Spell. But that's okay. We can just do that on our turn. Assuming we survive another turn. But like, I think there's a decent chance. I don't know what the Kieran guy is up to. But I think I get what Halana and Alena are gonna do. They're just gonna play a beta. And the Orsov fella. That, I don't know, probably play a commander or something. Yep, there's just a commander. Alright, so there's Halana and Alena. Probably gonna get like a little ring or something equipped on it and then put some counters on the Jaya Sage and like do that whole situation. Like I get it. And we're gonna go for a win on turn 4. Which even according to the new brackets is okay. This is bracket 4. You get to win on turn 4. I mean, our opponents aren't really anywhere close to that, but it's kind of on them, honestly. So this is the turn that scares me. Alright, there's the Kieran. Be chill. Don't play 0 mana Spirit Arcane. Be chill. I don't even think it would be correct though. Like if you do that right now, don't you just give the win to Alana and Alena? Yeah, it's not even the right play, so like I don't need to worry. Now let's play a Valley Floodcaller. And I think everybody's tapped out. We should be good to go. Alright, let's draw a card. It's a land. We probably don't need another land. So let's just kind of transmute here. Alright, we get Trickery Charm. Target creature becomes the creature type of your choice until end of turn. Trickery Charm. Target creature becomes the creature type of your choice. And I would like to make you, let's say, an otter. All right, she's no longer an octopus. She's now an otter. So we tap her, cast Transplant Theorist, realize that that is a creature spell. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We get to loot. Panharmonicon is great. Alchemist's Vial. And then I would like to untap my commander, tap this, cast Panharmonicon, which again untaps my commander. Panharmonicon enters. I would not like to draw a card. There's no real point to it, right? And then I would like to draw 2 cards. And I would like to put these 2 on the stack at the bottom. And then draw these 2 first. Okay, that's not great. Okay, we got 2 lands. That's not ideal. I would like to draw, yes. Discard this. I would like to draw, yes. Discard this. Then we tap you, cast the Glinting Dagger. Always yield to this one. Well, Darken Archmage would be amazing, but we do not have it. That's fine. We just need to draw literally any artifact that draws a card. Like literally anything, please. The entire deck is full of them. Okay, that's good. That's good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. I was so worried. Oh my god. I was so worried. Okay, here's the Races scoreboard. We'll put you 2 at the bottom. Thank you. We'll draw 2. Discard this. We're fine now. We're fine. We got it. It's over. Because I can cast the Might Stone and the Weak Stone. We put these 2 at the bottom again. Okay. And there's more card draw. This bad boy draws another 2 and discards 1. But, you know, we're going positive again. We're gonna get rid of our land. Don't need that. Okay, this guy has left. That's fair. It's fine. Who am I to just judge that, honestly? Also, my commander is getting kind of huge, which is funny. Like, she's actually becoming a bit of a lad. We don't need this. That guy is also gone. That's fine. I mean, we got him. This card is stupid. You know, like, what can I tell you? Like, this is just what it does. Yeah, you can just win on turn 4, honestly. It requires some very specific pieces. You gotta get really lucky. Let me be completely honest with you. This is not the first game I've played with this deck, right? Not by a long shot. But, you know, like, the thing is that she does escalate so quickly that it's also not super crazy what's going on here. We got him. It's fine. They don't need to sit this one out. That's fair. Nobody wants to do that. That's not fun. I get it. But admittedly, this is one of those situations where you just call GG, right? So yeah, this is kind of a stupid card. I honestly don't know what to do with her. Like, I don't actually think you can play her in the lower brackets, but in the higher brackets, she's gonna draw aggro. And then she's gonna get killed. And if she gets killed, you're screwed. But if she doesn't get killed, this happens, right? You should get to do what I just did. So it's a bit of a silly card. If you want to try out the deck with all of its beautiful 25 lands, then go check out my Patreon. There's a link down in the description. On the Patreon, you can find all of my deck lists as well as a bunch of bonus content. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.